All right. Let's
Okay.
see where this gets us if it actually starts. Sometimes it's a little rough at the beginning.
Temperamental at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I try and start a stream, it's followed by somebody going, restart the stream, cancel the stream, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm not. What the? Why do people so melodramatic?
Well, I understand it. It's like, sometimes there's a big issue. Like I did a whole stream once where, like, the first 5 minutes it was muted or something. People couldn't hear me, and I was
It's
just like,
basically what I did.
I was just talking into the void, like literally just sitting in my room talking, like nobody was really, like everyone was
Did
paying
you have your
attention.
face on the camera at least?
No, I didn't. It was just my voice.
So
So
shit.
it
I
was
was
real
just
bad.
like, I could just imagine like you and your smile making yourself laugh and all these things with what you were saying, but there's no sound. It's just you looking like you're having a great time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that would be fun. All right, so we got a couple people in here, guys. This is Kanji and I. We're gonna be talking about the future of Dragon Ball. Really, kind of just discussing, you know,
I can see the future. Sorry.
I can see the future. Not after its species magically repopulated.
It's just,
I
of
forget.
course.
Yeah, it's like Goten and Trunks become a guy, like that type of stuff. I love that. No, so Kanji and I are going to be talking about the future of Dragon Ball, just future Dragon Ball stories that we would like to see, and just kind of going off the cuff, whatever you guys want to kind of chime in and give your thoughts and opinions as well. Wait for more people to come in, especially more people to give their thoughts and opinions. We have one thing.
One thing alone.
Dragon Ball's my favorite movies. Dragon Ball's my favorite movies. All right,
It's Dragon Balls, my favorite movies, or
Dragon
the Dragon
Balls.
Ball.
No, it's just Dragon Balls are my favorite movies. What's up, Augustus? All right, so guys, we are gonna be talking about the future. Some people, eagle-eyed people, might know that I or see because we got around 10 people in here, and I don't usually pull in more than 30 these days. So I'll just kind of go ahead and say this. I have enabled super chats. I don't expect anyone to give me anything, but what I hope to do with the super chat, which I think might be a fun little exercise in the future, is if people do have the kindness to throw things out there and give me some money, I'll use that money to do a fan giveaway. That's what I can do with it.
Fan giveaway.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Like it'd be fun. I think that'd be fun. All right. No. So anyway, this 1 second.
You're getting some good messages coming up
We
now.
gotten some. There should be Demon Realm. We got Hello, which is also a good
Hello's a
one.
really good story for the future of Dragon Ball.
I got a
I
story
really
of
like
what
that
they
one.
could do. They could do a whole episode or two-part on the Namekian Book of Legends. I mean, obviously, I want them to explore the Namekian Book of Legends. But before we get into this, and we'll do our best to get back to as much as we can because Kanji's here. I want to just kind of keep it more conversation based, but we'll jump into the comments below. And if we see something that's really good, we'll take note and we'll ask if we can actually have that and use it for videos down the line if we don't have enough time to get to it. But here's my thought. I did a video really recently. I'm not sure how many people listening to this know about this video, or you yourself, Kanji, but we did a
I'm
video,
clueless.
Kyokai and I, about fights that need to happen, fights should happen in Dragon Ball. And I think one thing we need to see in the future, as you and I both agree, Broly's not going anywhere at this. And as Carthu said in one of my other videos, that Broly needs to be the type of person who goes out of nowhere or, kind of leaves and does his own thing, whether he comes back and becomes a good guy or whatever. I want him to go into the other universes for whatever reason. Maybe he's looking for a challenge. Maybe he wants to conquer the entire multiverse, and he's kind of taken Frieza's mantle of wanting to do that from the Tournament of Power, and that instigates a fight between him and the Pride Troopers, and we get Broly versus Jiren, but not just Broly versus Jiren, especially if Broly is instigating the fight and trying to grow an army that's suitable enough to take over the multiverse. You have Broly going to places like Universe 9 and recruiting the Trio to Danger for his lieutenants or something. So you have really the Tournament of Power separated in half, and we have our civil war of Dragon Ball, and this is our main huge multiversal war arc or story that we have for the future of Dragon
Well,
Ball.
if I can chuck in on that as well, just imagine how awesome it would be. Because if we ended up doing something like that, imagine the fact that the guy's already affiliated with Universe 11 now and stuff. So when it came to actually doing the Pride Troopers stuff, you'd be able to see Goku and Vegeta and everybody. Like there was all those pictures that people were like putting around of like Caulifla and Kale and Android 18 in the Pride Trooper uniforms, going, "Why is this so hot?" And it'd just be like you'd be able to put them all in the Pride Trooper outfits, and Vegeta's like, "Oh, come on, guys, what do we have to wear? This is like Jiren and Topo are just kind of there going like, support us, you need to be part of our team," and all this kind of stuff. I can just picture it working really well.
But I mean, to me, that would be kind of a cool arc. I mean, like maybe in a manga or anime, maybe even just like continue the Broly movie arc. Really, just give us two more films that sets up like two more films that are the whole of one story. I think you could do it in a decent amount of time for 3 hours. With two 90-minute movies where you set up Broly creating his army and everything, or getting realization, like, you know, recruiting and everyone getting worried about it. Maybe he's going after the Dragon Ball something. And then the last movie in this trilogy of Broly films is everyone kind of gearing up to fight and having that big, awesome climactic fight. That way, the middle part can focus on more of the same mythology and the character building of Broly and everyone else in the future Dragon Ball, and then we can have our Fakatsu no F. It's just going to be straight wall-to-wall fighting with Frieza, Goku, Vegeta, Broly, Jiren, everyone from the Pride Troopers, everyone from Universe 6. It's just, you know, you could see how this really starts building on itself.
It would really work. And also, if you were to do something like that, obviously in the sense of like a trilogy kind of thing, the second movie that would come after this one, you could almost treat a bit like, I know a lot of people are a bit Marmite-ish, kind of love-hate on the situation, but I love what they did with the Namekian arc. And so I think it was a case of you could have the second movie in this trilogy where you're kind of not having Broly fight like the Z Warriors and stuff like this, but you could have them sort of going up against some of his bigger subordinates and all this kind of stuff, you know, and it could really be building that kind of thing up where like Broly's obviously still aware of the fact that they're there, and because obviously he's going to know whether they died or not at the end of the film, surely. But like, you know, I just forgot about those guys. I was so lost in rage and malice, I just completely forgot. But like, if you were to do a situation like that, the second film, it could literally just be that kind of bridging the gap where the big fight is actually between them and one of his minions, or like his right hand man, or something like that. And as you say, the next film kind of comes at the whole. It's sort of like the King Piccolo style thing when he's like, "What? You killed one of them? Right, I guess I'll go myself," kind of thing. And I think that really sets up a really cool, tense vibe. And then you've got sort of like the next year of build-up waiting for when it actually comes down to the third film, when they fight Broly once and for all kind of thing. But, you know, I've already explained to you off chat and off live stream what I think they're actually going to do with Broly, but I love this idea.
Go for it. Go for your explanation and everything that you think is going to happen. I mean, this is about future stories. Do me a favor though, like you have an idea of what they're going to do. How does that move into the next story, character interactions and whatnot? I didn't really go into that with my pitch here.
Yeah,
because
I get you.
I really think like that story, even though it seems like it's big and expansive, is something that they really need to just do for movies. And I think if they were to, after this film's success, just come out and be like, we have 2 more Broly movies, and what we set up here was just the very beginning. We're going to do something far greater, and we're actually going to give you that multiverse feel that we promised throughout all of Dragon Ball Super. It's the perfect opportunity because it's something that isn't a huge story. Dragon Ball doesn't have to get they don't have to muddy around in the details of like, okay, this guy's doing this and like this is the strategy and all the other stuff that's happening here. And by the way, before I go any further, thank you, Mace, for your $2 super chat. That's fantastic. I'm not going to read your comment, but I did see it, and oh my. You guys can go up and...
You just read that.
You guys can go up and look at it if you want and have a nice little chuckle, but oh my. Anyway, so
Yeah, just before I get into what I think they could do with Broly that is outside of this whole Broly versus the multiverse situation, I just want to address this comment that Masood, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, is left saying is if Whis can bring back people from the dead like Frieza, doesn't it kill a main purpose of the Dragon Balls? I just want to point out that whilst it does in the sense that they can revive people, it doesn't because Whis can just say no to somebody if they went, hey, bring this person back to life kind of thing. The Dragon Balls can be gathered by anybody, good or evil, and then they can be used to make any kind of wish. If I know majorly they get used to revive people from the dead, but it's not their main purpose. And some Whis might not want to do that for somebody, but Beerus told Whis to bring Frieza back to life because he did so well in the Tournament of Power. And it's not every day that a situation like the Tournament of Power is going to happen where it's going to just suddenly go, right, well, if I help out, I can come back to life. So I don't really think it kills the main purpose of the Dragon Balls, but I can see what you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, what I mean, I agree. I agree that that's true because Whis is really not someone I think we have to worry about as a fan base anymore. I feel like he's just going to be there for comedic purposes, and even though we have a glimpse of what he can do, they're not going to really explore it anyway because they know just how much of a cheat code he is. So that was bringing Frieza back. I think that was a one and done thing. We're never going to see that actually be the thing again.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I don't really think it's going to be something we're seeing all the time, like Piccolo's clothes beam and all this kind of stuff. I think it's a treat for those special episodes when you've earned the right to see his clothes beam and you've earned the right to see him bring back to life. And you're welcome, Masood.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, no. Yeah. I want to get back to what we were talking about before we get more to the comments though. My point
yeah,
was, the whole Broly versus multiverse, at least in my opinion, like I said, is big scale action, fun, kind of allowing. It's a story that would allow us to briefly reintroduce the characters, not really focus on them any, and just kind of get to the fight as soon as possible with all of the build up in the second film that would still be entertaining for fans, especially if you have the idea that the big fight is coming in the next film that's already produced and is scheduled for next year or something like that. I'm not focusing too much on the story. The problem I have, and I want you to kind of develop a little in this conversation, is, for what you want them to do with Broly, what's like you have to utilize his character. You don't just bring him back and make him do such a turn for nothing. So what are your thoughts on there?
See, my situation with the whole well, actually, before I get into this, you've just received another super chat donation
by Mace. All right. Well, wow, man, you're way too generous. You don't have to. And as I said, everyone in the chat, everyone who's here, because the more people are here than when we actually started, just want to reiterate, I've opened up super chats, even though I said before that I wasn't going to do them. I thought better of it. I was like, hey, maybe I can use the super chats to take the money people give me and actually do something for the people who watch my channel and everything, do giveaways or something. If I can collect enough small amounts once every month, try to do something nice. So that's really why that's there. It's not for me. So I hope you guys, no obligation to share anything or anything else like that. But May says, if I was writing a super movie, I would have a group of ancient martial artists consisting of Frieza race, Namekians, Sephorians, and Saiyans as the leader. Oh, okay.
As the villains.
Yeah. Okay. So, how big, as the villains, Mace? How big would they be? I mean, how big would this martial artist cult actually be? I mean, because I like the idea of bringing in all of these familiar faces that you can develop, but what would be the main reason for all these people to be together is my biggest
It's like
question.
a secret cult or something like that. Is it something like I don't know if he's talking maybe in the situation of like, how when we're talking about this sort of multiverse situation and all this kind of stuff. I mean, like, I think he's sort of bouncing off the idea we were saying, whereas like, Broly had his own little army kind of thing, because he's put Anda Saiyan as the leader. So does this suggest that Broly's going to go around and pick up all loads of ancient martial artists that have, like, hidden away, gone into hiding, and then he's gone around and collected them all this kind of stuff. Because I mean, it's interesting, but the thing is, you have to ask the questions how logically it fits together, due to the fact that, like, obviously so many of the characters have evolved from these stories. We'd have already been aware of a lot of these ancient martial artists and stuff, because like people like Supreme Kai or Kaioshin, all these people would be aware of such existence of people. Or, you know, you would think, although they seem to be very blissfully unaware of so many things that happen within the universe.
Well, what they could do, and I would actually love this, really, is instead of a movie, that would be a really awesome idea for a video game. I mean, you know, kind of reintroducing maybe a Xenoverse, whatever you want to call it, 3, or whatever the heir apparent to Fighters is, sequel or whatnot. Just have these new introduced characters who you can kind of build around them being ancient and kind of similar to what we already have. I mean, Xenoverse is already kind of like that, where you get to actually create a character from all of these races that we know, human, Namekian, Saiyan, Frieza type character, but just have the characters that either you create or that someone else creates be the main thrust of the story. Like, you know, just give us whatever the initial Xenoverse sequel is, a Fable-like situation where you can choose to be good or bad, and then you get to see the story differently or something. That would be cool.
It would be cool. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a nice idea. But if you're cool with me going into what I was going to mention earlier,
of course.
keep the chat of the future of Dragon Ball going. Mm-hmm. I think, as we've been talking about several times recently, I've been discussing the idea that I think there's a very strong chance that Broly won't die at the end of the movie, and somehow I really hope it wouldn't be in an anticlimactic fashion, but I really do think that it could end up in the situation where Broly actually ends up siding with the main cast. Now, the reasons I think this for outside of story purposes is based on the fact that Toei Animation have been trying to find ways to get Broly involved in the story for quite a few years now, regardless of whether it was going to Toriyama with various different scripts of ideas saying, why can't you do this with Broly kind of thing? Toriyama kind of going, I'll see. Then him deciding to make Kale, because Toei had suggested, why don't you make another Saiyan and almost make a female Saiyan, and let's make it like Broly. And so, you know, he ended up making Kale, which then led to the creation of Caulifla. Obviously, I'm still unsure, actually, without me going and doing some research, whether Toriyama's idea was actually to make Kefla. I'm unsure about that, but based on the fact that she appears in both the manga and the anime, that kind of really does point to the idea that it is Toriyama's invention. But to kind of like patch that kind of up, it really does suggest that Toei have been trying to get Broly involved for quite a long time. If that were to be the case, I don't see why they're going to wipe him out after one movie, and it would be a different iteration of Broly altogether than what we've actually seen before, which is what Toriyama's trying to do. And I think because of that, another nice way of doing it would be to make him into a good guy at some point, make him side alongside the cast. Now, from what you were saying, Mark, I know that you were kind of wanting to know where that would lead. And truth is, they don't really tend to plan this stuff, I don't think. They're just kind of go, that's a nice idea. And then they kind of go, actually, yeah, we could do something with this going forward. But honestly, you could do quite a bit with Broly. I mean, like, you know, if it were to get to the situation, Frieza knows that he needs to train to get stronger. That has been made very apparent. And apparently, when he's in hell, he can mentally train to get stronger as well. You know, ass pull of a thing that was. Mm-hmm. And so, if all the Saiyans were to band back together or something, it would only annoy Frieza more, depending on where his allegiance is going to end up in the next film. We could end up going to see more things. Broly gets interested among seeing the Universe 6 Saiyans because this happens, and we finally get that thing where they band together and they end up going to Universe 6, and Vegeta gets that kind of moment that we've all been waiting for him meeting the king and all this kind of stuff. And I think there are so many things that they could do with Broly being a good guy, because Vegeta's character, as a lot of the fans have liked to point out, he's kind of... I don't agree when people say he's gone back on his character arc, because he's no longer a villain. And so I kind of think that this leads many open things where you can have somebody Lida Ramos, I think your name's pronounced. I'm sorry if that's wrong. I apologize if I butchered it. But you put maybe Broly could be an anti-hero, which is something that they could do again, which they kind of did with Vegeta on Namek, where he wasn't a good guy, but he was ending up finding himself in an allegiance with the main cast. So I think this kind of stuff does really suggest that they could do that kind of thing. But I mean, interactions wise, you've got all sorts of stuff that could come out of it. Is Broly going to end up, marrying Launch? Because, Ten Shinhan hasn't, and all the women, by the laws of Dragon Ball, must end up paired off with somebody else in the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's, or else be banished. Never to be
seen again. No. They get paired off, and that's it. They get sent to a closet. Toriyama's like, no, you weren't good enough for any of my characters.
So the one thing I would say there is, it's not if Broly has to be redefined and reevaluated to be a good guy, I don't think he's going to be absorbed into the main cast. It's going to be one of those things where Kaba, Caulifla, and Kale hit everyone from Universe 6 where they're out there.
Broly's going to end up with Kale.
No, it's like, well, yeah, that's obvious, right? No, but it's I would imagine what it would be like is and this is just my weird, crazy pitch for it, is throw him Planet Vegeta. Just bring back Planet Vegeta. I mean, let's be clear. I think this movie is going to be dealing with maybe not Frieza's intention, although I've made my case in other videos why I think that would be a cool idea if it's Frieza's intention to bring back Planet Vegeta. But more than likely, it's going to be Paragus. And I think one of the cool things is Frieza, I believe, is going to be responsible for the death of Paragus, not Broly this time, because I think he's going to have some admiration for his father, whether he's being controlled by him or not, and that's what's going to send Broly against Frieza. What if, after all of this, and he's somewhat of an anti-hero or someone that they can't really trust at first, but if they bring back the show in another way, focusing on him in a story that allows him to just somehow, with the Super Dragon Balls or whatever, wish back Planet Vegeta, even wish back the Saiyans, but simply Vegeta as a character moment for himself gives up the royal position. He doesn't want to rule. He wants to stay on Earth. He wants to stay with his family and everyone like that. And Broly just takes the reins of being on that throne. So you don't have to really see him again. We know they're out there. There's a lot of story potential there. It's really kind of an interesting plot device, but we know he's kind of a good guy now, and Planet Vegeta or Sadala, whatever they end up calling it, is in good hands. And maybe you can rope that with whatever they do in Universe 6, learning about Kale and Caulifla and Kaba and seeing Planet Sadala and Vegeta kind of having to come to terms with that part of his pride and his Saiyan belief system, which is one of the things that still haunts him as a character. So you could use Broly to actually do that, I think, and it would be okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. The truth is there are so many directions you can go with it, but the problem is it does narrow it down in the sense that the thing that you kind of suggested with the multiverse war is such a cool idea. It's not like we've seen anything happen like that. Like we were discussing before the other day in a call when we were saying that a war breaking out over this kind of stuff is something we haven't seen, but all the like foundations for it have been padded like since the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, when they start mentioning how Frieza destroyed the planet, and Frieza's like before they'd kind of pointed out that he used to like clear off the planets and sell them and all this kind of stuff. It was much more of a situation where they were kind of doing the whole Frieza could just be taking over these planets. And obviously, because there were so many different races in his army, it really does suggest that he's been picking up people from each planet, kind of going, you're quite strong, you can join me, sort of thing. And I think that suggests that we could do something similar somewhere. And the leader doesn't even have to be that powerful, just powerful in the sort of sense that you could have a different style of bad guy in Dragon Ball where their power isn't actually from their might, but more so from the power of their persuasion, of all this kind of stuff, their intelligence, their ability to kind of manipulate people. And then they could end up manipulating so many different characters to end up working for them that are actually stronger than them. Mm-hmm. And that would make a really interesting film, because then you've got so many different fights you could have, but then you could even have one of the lesser characters main like prerogative go for the person that is actually being the manipulator. Maybe even have Bulma take this person down because Bulma's really intelligent. Do you know what I'm kind of getting at?
No, yeah, I like the idea of like how long has it been since Frieza Force or whatever that iteration of these are the big bad guys and it's just a group of much more powerful people than we've actually ever encountered before. I mean, we haven't had that since the Namekian arc where there's just this group of unspecified amount of people that we can't step to. It's always just been one person or a small handful of people that we can't fight at that moment, but give us a day. That's one of the
Yeah.
big things that's a problem with Dragon Ball Super right now. So no, I would really like that, and one of the reasons I want Broly to do that, I think it would be an awesome 3-part trilogy movie arc, and something that I think the fans would really get behind. But of
Well,
course,
yeah, because it's like a reimagining of the original in that sense, because they call it the Broly trilogy. Whilst it is a trilogy, it's kind of they're not set side by side, so it's kind of it's just a trilogy because he appears in all three of them. But I like the idea that what you're coming up with at the moment, where it actually sets up like a running story broken up into 3 films, kind of like if you like to break it up in this instance, like Back to the Future or Star Wars kind of thing, where it's literally episodic parts of a big story.
No, yeah, and that's one of the things I think we need to like that's one of the things I think would be interesting about doing that type of a story with Broly, and what if they're setting it up with this. I mean, I guess there's other ways we can talk about it. One of the big sticking points for a lot of people is like Broly could be the guy who reinvigorates this series and pushes it into the future. I think there's a lot of good points to be made there, and one of the reasons they're not going to get rid of him, whether they keep him as we've been talking about, a bad guy, an anti-hero, or just kind of joining the good guys and he's all good now. I mean, we don't know. But, I mean, what's the next thing? I think one of the first things that came up in the chat, and I want to go back up to it, is the concept of a demon realm fight where Goku and all these other people have to fight the demon realm, which is something that Toriyama's talked about on and off with Dragon Ball. Like, oh, there's these demons, or they're dark angels or something, and then he kind of forgets about them. Of course, we have Deborah, who was a demon, and then we have Toa and Mira, which I've also just talked about in great detail in the past. Just how much I love the concept of Toa and Mira, and I think that they need to adapt that into the greater show or story of Dragon Ball. So, I mean,
the problem I have is the fact that Deborah is supposedly king of the for all of this, and you have Toa and Mira that kind of come in. They could go to the demon realm, but will there really be anybody in there worth fighting? They need to incorporate something to make it, I mean, like, believable. And if they were to bring in the demon realm at some point, it really needs to set up a situation where there's a threat, or have they got like a special version of fusion that they like sort of come up with, and then they band a load of demons together or something. Dragon Ball has done demons before, quite a few times, to be honest. With the beginning, before it was Namekian, obviously you had Demon King Piccolo Daimao, who would spawn up his own demons, as it were. And obviously, since they've been retconned to be Namekian, it hasn't actually been something that we've seen since. And because of that, we've seen Goku and Chi-Chi. Yes, at the end of Dragon Ball, it was, a bunch of sort of filler just to kind of end it. But we have seen Goku and Chi-Chi go through all those kind of the trials that they went through. And then we've seen Deborah come out of it. And we've seen characters in Dragon Ball be kings of the demon realm and all this kind of stuff. And then you've had in Dragon Ball GT Heroes Legacy, the I forget the guy's name, but the guy that Goku Jr. actually beats up claims to be the king of the demon realm as well. There are so many things where they've made this happen, and none of them have been particularly threatening, except for Piccolo, and even Deborah wasn't particularly threatening, I think. My personal opinion is that they could have done a lot with him. But he was... Okay, I don't know.
The thing is, like, the reason I like the idea of them going back and trying to do, as some people in the comments are saying, a malevolent Makaio Shen, or something that is akin to demons or dark angels or something. Of course, like a malevolent Makaioshin seems, at least in that bare bones surface level, super close to Zamasu. And I don't know what else you do. I mean, obviously, with the concept of multiverse and gods and time travel still in flux with Dragon Ball, there's so many things that they can do. But when do they start feeling like they're going to start stepping on each other's toes? I think Toriyama has a good indication of where to introduce Toa and Mira and make it make sense and matter and give that sense of urgency and, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to the future of this series. Of course, I believe with Broly in the mix, with Oob in the mix, whoever's in the mix after this 10-year time jump, it needs to take place after that. But I just think if you're going to throw in Deborah, if you're going to throw in Toa and Mira, if you're going to throw in Evil Makaioshin or something, the best introduction story that you can have is just simply rip it straight out of Dragon Ball Online and have whoever it is show up at Planet Namek and blow it up. No, I'm looking for the Dragon Balls, and no, like, maybe people afraid we get to see like a couple of young Namekian boys just go, like, completely decimated like we did back when we all started hating Frieza back in the day. It's a good wake-up call to be like, this matters. This will probably be a sticking point for the rest of the series. And it kind of reaffirms that the Super Dragon Balls are what we really need to be focusing on for the future of the series. That's why we're going to be calling it Dragon Ball Super, and this is one of the things we need to be doing. So, we can no longer rely on these Namekian balls. We can no longer rely on the Earth balls. It's going back to the Dragon Balls that are amongst Universe 6 and 7 and make every single thing that happens from then on out either have more weight than than we're used to right now, and if we're going to get them, make it so much harder.
Dragon Ball Super Broly 2018. Earth has balls.
But that's what it's kind of. I bet you anything that's going to be one of the main sticking points. That's why they're on Earth. It has to be. Earth has the balls, and they're going to go to Earth for the balls. Like, it's really not my favorite story element of Dragon Ball. I think one of the things we need to do definitely in the future is get rid of all the Dragon Balls, and I think that's a perfect way to do it, and perfect villains to introduce to do it. I think there's a lot of story potential there that we can be exploring.
Hey, you have another super chat.
Oh, the rookie critic, man. Hi, hello, long-time listener. Here's $2. Thanks, man.
I love it. Straight to the
point. Again, every super chat you guys throw at me, when I get that money or anything, I'm gonna hopefully kind of, whenever I do this, I'll start collecting enough to make it make sense to have like a subscriber giveaway. That I think that's the best thing to do with them right now. So fear not, I'm not hoarding money or anything. That's not my intention. Anyway, so I mean, I don't know. I like the idea of Toa and Mir. I think that they're already pre-established characters. I mean, the same thing, even though it didn't really work out that way with Android 21 as a pre-established character in the EU of Dragon Ball, someone that would be kind of fun just to...
The European Union.
The European Union of Dragon Ball.
Of Dragon Ball.
Just to kind of pluck out of there and decide, okay, this is the next person we want to reinterpret. I mean, if Broly is a character that Toriyama can just retroactively decide to make canon and reinterpret in his own way, then what's to say video game characters aren't next? I mean, to me, it seems like the easiest outcome because you have characters who are relevant and exciting for the video game audience, which, if we're fair, are the people who've been helping Dragon Ball actually stay afloat for 30 years. I mean, the anime,
well, absolutely,
manga, all the merchandise and everything, but the video games are a whole nother level.
Well, absolutely, and I mean, like, for everybody, if you game find, then you literally need to pat yourself on the back because you played the same story 100,000 times over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and you kept doing it.
Dragon Ball
and
is literally the like an NFL Madden game. Like for football or soccer. It's
you know what you're getting.
It's the exact same game every single time, but somehow we just kept buying it. And it's even worse, too, because, the mechanics aren't as great.
And you've got another super chat.
Oh, from the rookie critic again. I love odd theories
They come in
and
twos.
whatnot too. Keep it up, man. Thank you so much. That's it. Way too generous, man. You don't have to keep giving money. I will see the chat. Sorry, we're not getting to the chats. This wasn't what this was about. Hopefully, we've been kind of getting to them every now and then. But yeah. Anyway, Kanji, what were you saying? Thank you again. Just thank you again. Wow.
Yeah. I was literally just saying, sort of, as we go along, because you guys have to thank yourselves, because even like the people that are like Dokkan Battle supporters, when you pour money into the game, you are funding Dragon Ball. You are putting because although Bandai Namco have paid for the development of the game, and therefore a lot of the produce actually goes to them, it still goes to support Dragon Ball, because the more revenue that it creates, the more that they're more likely to ask Toei Animation and Toriyama for permission to do more Dragon Ball games, which is putting more money into the franchise, which comes along with toys and all that kind of stuff, where the actual the developers of the toys get a lot of the money, but it's still, if they're selling, then they're going to go back for more. So it is the people that have been playing the games that are to thank for the Dragon Ball resurgence, as it were, because we're the ones who've kept it popular. We've kept going back for more, and we weren't being greedy, which we have been a bit now lately, to be perfectly honest. Like, back then, like, we played the exact same thing over and over again, and we didn't really think about asking for new Dragon Ball. It was a nice dream that maybe we'd get a new movie once in a while. And then when they did the Yosan Goku special, everyone was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Like, we've got a new piece of Dragon Ball for a while, even though if it wasn't trying to be that serious, it was nice to see something else. And then you've had things that came after that, like when you had the episode of Bardock special. And that was really nice, because it made you feel like you just got a little bit of sort of something else just chucked at you regarding the Dragon Ball universe, which wasn't focused on Goku and Vegeta and all this kind of stuff. And they really did just kind of chuck something else there. And it's really nice when they were doing that. And it gave us a little bit more here and there. We got a little bit more here and there. And it add to the lore of everything that we were doing, so that was really fun. But now, when we've got to this situation with the future of Dragon Ball, I think we're all getting a bit sort of I don't know. I think sometimes we expect a little bit too much, considering the fact that we did the same thing over and over and over again, which is going to have told Toei Animation that there's nothing wrong with the original. Keep copying it and doing the same thing over and over. So I think generally most of the things we're going to see are going to be things that we've pretty much already seen before. You know what I mean? Like tournaments and all this kind of stuff, because it worked before.
The rookie critic gives another $2 and he says, I've blown like $400 on chat supporting YouTubers. That's crazy. You don't have to,
but man. It's lovely and supportive, though.
It's very lovely, and it's like, I'm blushing, man. Like, I really am. It's like, okay, enough. Oh my god. I gotta go to work at Subway. I'll watch it slow if it's slow. All right, man. Hope works.
Just don't get caught. Don't get caught doing that.
No, don't get caught. But I don't know how long we're gonna be here, but thank you so much for all the donations, man. It's fantastic. Everyone who's donated, the rookie critic and Mace, that's way too generous of you guys, and I really do appreciate it. So I wanted to jump in though, talking about the games and talking about reinterpreting people who deserve to be reinterpreted. One of the things I didn't notice, I guess I just never really agreed with, or I didn't understand how popular someone like Cooler was to the overall story of Dragon Ball, or at least the fandom, ever since Broly was announced. I mean, he's been he's the guy theoretically for most people who's next in line. And I think that's a little weird, but I mean, is there anything that you can think of that would allow him to be brought into the story that makes sense? Or is his character just a little too far gone in that sense?
Well, I actually, okay, so I'm not one of the people that actually believes that bring Cooler into it, but I do actually you could do it, which actually keep him in universe. So not like making him like from Universe 6 and like a relative of Frost or something. But I think that I think it's more of a case of what you would do is at the beginning of Resurrection F or Fukatsu no F, it was suggested that they could actually use one of the wishes to bring King Cold back to life, and Frieza said no, there's no need. And with that in mind, I think it could be the fact that you've got Kikono, who's been revealed as one of the new characters for the Dragon Ball Super movie coming out later this year, and he has been with Frieza's army since King Cold. Now, if you were to get something along the lines of like, Kikono just doesn't like the way that Frieza runs things, and you've got a couple of Berry Blue is another character been revealed, and she apparently Berry Blue has been around for quite some time. Whilst they respect Frieza, is not afraid to sort of put him in place when she thinks he's out of line and all this kind of stuff. So that suggests that she's also from King Cold's side of the army. Now, I think that kind of puts into perspective that Frieza's going to be stealing people from King Cold's army generally. And if that were to be the case, then you could have them kind of sort of say that they don't like the way that Frieza runs things, and therefore they would like change. Mm-hmm. Come to the situation when they sort of go, right, let's just bring King Cold back because he was better at doing things than Frieza. He doesn't mess around. He wasn't lost in his own ego. He just wanted to get things done and move on to the next thing. Now you can find out in future things like where King Cold had been on other planets or something. Perhaps King Cold had had another son, which obviously is the complete point of Cooler, but in the canon, and Frieza just didn't know. You could do something where King Cold has had another son. They've been spread around the universe, like these guys, And so, realistically, it's not far-fetched to think that Frieza might not know that he had a brother. King Cold doesn't necessarily have to tell him everything, sort of thing. The Saiyans don't really care about their parents, generally, and therefore we can probably assume the same sort of thing with I don't know, Frieza's clan doesn't really have a name of their race, as many people believe it's Arcosian, but it's not. But there's a lot. They could be the same kind of way that they act. I mean, King Cold did show a little bit more concern for Frieza, but he didn't. He didn't really try hard at mourning Frieza after he died at the hands of Trunks. It was like, well, why don't you take his place at my side, and all this kind of stuff, So he just wanted to kind of replace him, and so I don't see how it's too far fetched to think that he could have had another son whilst Frieza was off doing other things,
You know what I would do? You know what I would do with Cooler? And this is kind of crazy out there, never gonna happen.
Put him in the freezer.
In a million years, right? So Frieza, after Namek gets his shit rocked, blown to smithereens. The guy is literally in pieces, missing half his face, everything, right?
Yup.
Just do, that stuff didn't get evaporated or whatever. None of that, right? It's Frieza's biology gets absorbed by the big Getti Star and make that a story. so that's how you introduce. Sorry, I can't hear you right now. I just accidentally. Yeah. Okay. So that's.
What you just missed me. I said the most profound thing ever, and you just missed it. Then. So
okay, cool.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to repeat it because, of course, nobody else wants profound Dragon Ball knowledge ever again.
So, no. So that's what I would do. Because at least in my opinion, I know a lot of people really love the Cooler form. They love that fifth form Cooler, a spiky head with a mouth guard piece and everything. That's one of the coolest things about Cooler. But I always like the concept of the big Getti Star. I love the idea of an army of Frieza mechanical bots, and the android idea of it kind of melding into that same story that Dragon Ball's always tried to tell with androids and whatnot. So I would do that. I know it would be a stretch, but I think it would be
just skipping Cooler and just going straight to Meta Cooler.
Have it doesn't have to be Meta Cooler. You can call him Cooler. He can call himself Cooler. With Frieza's DNA and everything, creating these robots. But that is the story. So then we have a threat like this machine trying to take over the universe. And you could do a lot of different things with it. You could do the exact same thing I was talking about earlier. You have him go to planet Namek and blow it up. And it's what's going on here? And it's well, the machine knows like everything Frieza knows, right? Because it has its biology, and you can actually tell that type of a story. I think that would be kind of cool and really unexpected. I mean, who would really expect that? First of all, like you said, there's ways of getting around it. Obviously, Dragon Ball doesn't care about lineage or story, character knowledge one way or another. I mean, obviously, but it would just be weird to say just out of nowhere, look, oh, Cooler's been around here this whole time and no one's mentioned him. He hasn't done anything. All this other stuff. Like, literally, Frieza's been in the mix here for at least 10, 15 years in their
Well,
actual lives, right? So I'm just saying,
let's not just kind of skip over the fact that a lot of the races do age somewhat differently to humans and stuff. With the fact that Piccolo grew up from being by age 3, Piccolo was fully grown. And so, it's not hard to believe necessarily that there may have been like another person of Frieza's race, or something. It might not even end up being his brother or something, but there could be another one, and he was growing up. And it's not hard to imagine if Frieza got so powerful by training that much. I know it's suggested that he's a special sort of, candidate for that role, but it might not be a case of them not being like, oh, that's a bit of an ass pull because nobody sensed him or something. But if he was still growing up and they just hadn't become that powerful, and now they're becoming that powerful, it could be a case of where Whis and Beerus didn't actually want to say anything because they were just interested in seeing what path they took as they got older,
Mm-hmm. No, and I mean, I could see that happening too. I feel like the problem.
Let's not blame the son for the sins of the father, kind of thing.
I feel like it would be interesting to focus. I mean, what they could do there, if that's, like, just reinterpret Frieza's kid, right? Frieza has a son.
Well, that's Frieza, which Toriyama made for Neko Margin.
Yeah, but you could just. You're gonna reinterpret things anyway. You can reinterpret Broly. Just Cooler's Frieza's son. Frieza has a son. It's like kid grew up. Like I don't know. Like it's really.
It's so Dragon Ball AF that it hurts.
Speaking of Dragon Ball AF, we had one question I wanted to get your thoughts on.
Okay.
Hunter Iggy. What if this happens at the end credits scene of the Broly movie? That Frieza uses Goku's hair to clone him. Talking about Dragon Ball AF, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
I'm gonna be real. I think I don't want to say never, but because I said never to evil Goku and we got Goku Black, but I think it's less likely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I did, but I think. Well, actually, I have a video on my channel where I actually did say that there is a chance we could get Broly in another movie, but I just didn't think he'd actually be in this Dragon Ball Super continuity. But then I wasn't expecting the movie to be canonical with the stories, so I am wrong technically. But I don't see it happening simply because we've already had the evil Goku story happen in Dragon Ball Super now. I think. It could have been something that we may have seen originally, like if Toriyama was running through with ideas of how to bring an evil Goku into it. But I think it actually, I know some people are going to argue with me about this, but I have a video explaining my points on this about the fact that Dragon Ball Super's Zamasu arc was virtually a reimagination of Toyotaro's Zycor arc in Dragon Ball AF. Mm-hmm. A lot of the things that happen are exactly the same and done in the same way. The same moves come back. A lot of the same story points and plot points re-emerge, and it's obviously just had that Toriyama spin on it. But had that been the case, I think that maybe Toriyama may have done something like that. But I don't really think that it happened because Toyotaro already kind of had the foundations of this story, which Toriyama could pick up and kind of go, actually, that's not a bad idea. Let's just play with it a bit. But no, I don't see it happening.
No, I don't see it happening either. It would be interesting, and it would make me question where they're going next. But it kind of, at least in my opinion, melds into the whole Cooler situation. The problem I have with that is let's stop focusing on Frieza race characters. Let's stop focusing on Saiyans and Namekians and all this other, let's reintroduce.
Let's go somewhere new.
Yeah, let's go somewhere new, or let's figure out a way to bring in a character that was already introduced into prominence. I think that would be kind of cool. I mean, even if like like one of my biggest issues, and a story definitely for the future, something that needs to be explored. You could talk all you want about those 6 universes that were destroyed. I want to see stories related on that. I want to see stories related with the Namekian Book of Legends, and the Namekians in general I think deserve more screen time. Let's go to Universe 2. I know it's not everyone's favorite universe, but let's go to Universe 2 and let's try to explain, seriously, try to explain why Universe 2 seemingly has people that it shouldn't. What's going on there, and how does that create, like, what's the story there? I mean, I can understand, really I can, the concept of, okay, like, we ran out of ideas and we didn't really know, like, we didn't know, like, anyone else to draw or something, so we just so happened to, Toriyama and Toritaro just so happened to be like, okay, we'll just throw a Yardratian and Sephorian in Universe 2 because we have no more ideas. Well, why not? Why not just rack your brain for one more idea, take Dr. Rota, throw him in Universe 2, and rack your brain for one more idea, because you don't need Dr. Rota and 2 Namekians. I mean, you free up enough space, right? Especially the Namekian thing would have made way more sense if it was just one Namekian, right?
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, like you say, if you just switched the Yardratian with Dr. Rhoda, it would have cancelled out a lot of people's thoughts about that the twin universe kind of thing, because that it did spoil quite a lot, But actually, the other thing that I wanted to point out is obviously I want to see new alien ears in the future. I don't want all the other aliens besides humans and Saiyans to have the same damn ears. Everyone has. Jiren has Frieza's ears. Majin Buu has Frieza's ears. Every Cell had Frieza's ears. I'm sick of the whole.
Cell makes sense, right? Cell makes sense for Frieza's ears because he has DNA.
Yeah, well, that doesn't excuse everybody else.
Yeah. No,
but it's just just to close off the thing I was saying about the Goku Black thing. The other reason I don't think it's going to happen is, why the hell would Frieza want to bring in a new Saiyan? I don't know what he's doing with the Broly thing if he recruits him, but it's just hypocritical because he hates them.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like, there has to be a story there, and that's the biggest sticking point with the Tournament of Powers. There was just so much there that was left on the cutting room floor, or just completely forgotten about because it didn't suit them, or they were trying to figure out how to end it without really explaining these issues that, myself as a fan, I guess you don't really have to care about it one way or the other because it doesn't really matter. But why don't we get an explanation for this? Why can't we have a reason why this was actually chosen, or what was going through their heads when they decided to put characters that should only be in Universe 6 and 7 in Universe 2? And was there an issue there? Did they steal them? I mean, there's a lot there. So, that to me is something that needs to be addressed in another story, and something I would like to see. And it would be kind of cool to go back and kind of, with the Sephorians, as I've talked about before, the Yardratians, someone that we know about, we've never really explored, become the main antagonist of a series, someone you wouldn't really expect. And then you actually explore that, you explore their history and where they fit in the multiverse. I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are so many things to do with all of this stuff. It's just, the future of Dragon Ball is so... There's so much they could do with it, but there's so much that they won't. And that hurts.
I know.
Like we've been saying recently, like, Dragon Ball is often fun to talk about than it is to watch, because we've got so many things that that they could do that they will never do.
Exactly. No.
It's like, oh no.
That's what I'm saying. I think the best thing I came up with here is, like, I just want the big Getti Star. I think that would be kind of cool. It doesn't even have to be Frieza. It doesn't have to be cooler. It could be anything. Just have the big Getti Star. Or bring back that whole, these 6 universes were destroyed, but their bad energy is still floating around out there, and then they come into the now multiverse and start messing with everything, and just bring in Janemba or something. I mean,
sorry.
Yeah, no.
You could do a twist on the Big Getti Star, just based on the fact that they've been going in between universes a lot lately. for inter-universal tournaments and everything like this. And you could quite easily do something like, every time they travel between universes or into that space between the universes, it creates like a little rift somewhere else in the universes where they all come together. And because of that, maybe like, a particle or something passed through that. And when it got into this new sort of pattern of energy, it started to grow and expand and mutate. And then it started picking up little bits from every universe and started forming into this big ultimate power. And because it was going through the fabric of reality and through the universes, it also goes through the fabric of time as well. And then it ended up going through and picking up a piece of Frieza's DNA from what you were saying, and then sort of just molds into this giant, this like supermassive, not like a black hole, but like the opposite, where it's growing in mass at a constant rate, and then that just starts to swell and swell and swell, and it's just filled with all this like energy from all the universes put together, and all this matter, and then it becomes this ultimate power because it's got something from every universe in, and it's picked up bits and DNA and bits and bobs from here and here, but because Frieza's chunk of his face was floating around or whatever, he ends up being the face of the Getti Star kind of thing. But that could be something you could do to mutate it into this kind of thing. But because he's got all this information from all these other universes, he doesn't become Frieza. He becomes like a twisted, messed up version. And that twisted, messed up version just doesn't feel like a Frieza. It feels more like a Cooler. And then you've got all the universes banding together to try and take out this ultimate evil, which doesn't put you in a situation, because you could even have some fighters like, the ones that didn't take part in the Universal Survival Arc, the Tournament of Power, the ones that didn't take part in that could have some people, which, it's supposed to, some people that are so powerful in there that it would have just been unfair to incorporate them into the Tournament of Power. So you could have had people that are way stronger than Jiren and Goku and all that kind of stuff taking part in those universes, trying to fight this guy. And then after that thing's been destroyed, it doesn't have to be destroyed by Goku or anything. It could be, it could be like a giant spirit bomb or something that puts him to sleep. And then you've got all these other people that have all contributed the energy. So it's not Goku force that actually beats him, but it's Goku's technique. And then, and because of that, then obviously you've got this ultimate side where afterwards you've still got these stories to go through where Goku wants to fight people from other universes that he saw, try and fight the Getti Star and Cooler as it. So, you've got so much you could do with that.
Before he goes, I don't know if he's still in here. He might have left. But YouTube commenter, I love this. He says, I don't know about anyone else, but I want to see a Goten Sans Trunks getting taller arc.
I want to see that too.
Just them slowly in between like 15, 14 episodes, just slowly getting taller and like measuring out themselves, eating well, like training. Yeah, that would be great. I feel like they've stunted their growth by training as much as they have. Remember, we never saw Trunks in his timeline train. He lost his dad when he was born, so Vegeta wasn't there training him from the very beginning. And then we also had Gohan. While he trained, he still cut. Did he take breaks? No, he never took breaks. This theory is already terrible. All right. Anyway, no. Here's a good thing. Dayton Butts.
What?
He says, moving the show focused
I
towards
misheard.
everything and everyone in general is what's best for the series at this point. So he's basically saying that the only way to focus the show's energy and make it really interesting going forward is to get out of this 10-year time skip. And I think that's interesting. I think that's true. I think we need to be in unfamiliar territory. We need to not know what the next step is, and that was Super's biggest problem. So no matter what they do, they need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had because my girlfriend watching Dragon Ball with me as well, and we've been starting going through it. She's been saying one of the things that Dragon Ball doesn't do, which a lot of other anime do, is it doesn't have that episodic feel. Sometimes you get a slice of life episode, but it doesn't quite feel enough. So, and a lot of us have been thinking that, a lot of us are saying the fact that there's not enough sort of slice of life, seeing the characters develop and grow together. More so, what she was suggesting we kind of need to do in many ways is actually get you not knowing what you're going to see each time you turn up and tell a story within that episode. It doesn't necessarily have to be a slice of life episode, but you could do something where one episode it's focusing on what Hit's doing currently, the next episode what Goku's doing, the next episode what Vegeta's doing. They've all been split up or something. Next episode Jiren, next episode maybe future Trunks. And then at the end of the series, it kind of all comes together, and the things that they've been doing have been leading each other, so it's been having like a ricochet effect through everybody's story, and everything has been leading onto different bits. And then for the final couple episodes, then you have a giant fight that leads onto it also. They've been doing things, I don't know exactly, but I mean, you get the kind of the what is the word I'm looking for? Easter eggs in each episode, which pertain back to another episode that has just happened, but in different ways. And then for the series finale, or for the end of that story arc, is where it all comes together. And then you've had an equal amount of everybody. And then at the end, if Goku gets the win, does anybody really care? Because we had some really cool moments with other people in the episodes leading up to that. And I agree with that. I really think that's how you develop the characters. And when comes a time when you probably do want to leave Goku behind at some point, maybe when Masako Nozawa starts to get quite ill or something, which I hope is a long, long way away.
Yeah, of course.
But if that were to happen, then I don't really think, I don't really want to hear a replacement for that. So how about you ended up phasing Goku out and then you bring up somebody else? And that means you've had all this time to do that,
That's Dragon Ball's biggest problem, I think. I mean, not that it's obviously, it's not hurting Dragon Ball one way or the other. People still watch Dragon Ball and are very excited about it. It's really just, it values Goku so much over everything else that it doesn't allow it has such a huge cast. I mean, the amount of characters that are out there in this universe are crazy, and people we really would like to focus on more. I would really like to focus on Hit or Kaba or Frost or Jiren, Pride Troopers, heck, Goten and Trunks and Gohan and Videl and 18 and Krillin and Yamcha and Tenshinhan, and what happened to Launch?
Well,
She just completely got thrown in a closet and locked in there.
If Dragon Ball is such this industry that everybody loves and pours money, why can't they do what they've done with a couple of other chibi show or whatever with it? Why don't they just make a spin-off series or something like Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead, where they won't take part in the same universe, but you've got another story happening at the same time? Why don't they just do that with Universe 6, see how it goes, make it like a 12-episode episodic series, 12-episode episodic series. So why don't you make it a 12-episode series, tell a brief story in that, see how it goes in terms of ratings or whatever. And then if it keeps working, just keep doing that every so often. You don't need this to be ever going. You know what I mean? You could just have something that's 12 episodes long, 13 episodes long, hell, even 6 episodes long. And you can tell a story in 6 episodes.
No, I understand. And I think that's something they could definitely do in the future. I would really like them to do that in the future. We just don't know. Like, that's the problem. We don't know what their plans are. And we could talk about characters we want introduced in one way or another, or stories we want them to do, or something. But I think, as I said, the biggest flaw it has is that it cannot stop focusing on Goku. Even if Broly at some point does become a good guy, he's going to be regulated to the back at some point. Because the show is meant to be Goku focused. Vegeta's as lucky as he has been to be as relevant as he has been for so long, and Bulma even was lucky to get way more relevant in Dragon Ball Super than she has been in a long time. So, I mean,
yeah, definitely. I mean, her in Super, especially in the Zamasu arc, very touching in many ways, because so much of it was about her, and I know a lot of it. I know it wasn't about her in the sort of typical way that you'd like a Bulma-related storyline to be, but she has been the catalyst of so many things happening. Like, Battle of Gods was because it was her birthday party and stuff, and then you've had Zamasu arc, which, the final nail in the coffin for Trunks was his mom being killed, and also she was the one telling him where to get the fuel for the time machine and all this kind of stuff. So many of these things have happened around Bulma. She was the one who sort of helped them go and find Zuno and all this kind of stuff to discuss that stuff before the Universe 6. And it's gone so far, and it's really fun that they've done all this with Bulma. You're right.
I agree. Anyway, guys, hopefully we'd be able to stay longer. I know Kanji has places to be, so do I. I got stuff and homework to do. I hope everyone has really enjoyed this. You can find Kanji's link in the description section below. Please make sure to go check him out if you haven't
Thank
already.
you.
Like a lot of this stuff I think could be really boiled down and really well more thought out in other individual episodes or videos on each of our channels. So don't be surprised if you hear these thoughts again, especially way more thought out and everything. But this was just more for fun, just a general conversation between Kanji and myself. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Obviously, if you're here, you're probably already subscribed. As I said, just in general, we didn't get a whole lot, but we did get way more than I was anticipating, which is crazy with these donations. That's fantastic. Never feel obligated to. That's not the point. Huge shout out to Mace and the Rookie Critic. You guys are awesome. The money that you donated here is going to be collected and saved for something I hope is a nice subscriber giveaway sometime in the very near future, maybe in a couple months here, if I can get little small amounts to actually equal something big, and I'll match it or something if I have the money.
I guess we'll just have to do more streams.
We can do more streams. I mean, my hope is to do like one stream a week, so we'll see how that actually goes. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Guys, it's been fantastic. Thank you for coming out. Sorry we didn't get to your questions. That's usually my goal, but we'll see next time if we do that. Like if I do it alone, I usually like to get through all the questions. So Kanji, thanks for taking the time. I know it's really late for you right now.
Oh no, it's fine, man. I always enjoy being on here. So warming and welcoming as well, which is so nice because you've accumulated such a nice little, YouTube base and all this stuff. It's great to be a part of, and I appreciate you having me on.
Oh yeah, man. No worries. Always welcome. Anyway, guys, I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been real.
Bye!
Bye!